And getting back to what I'd said before about, what's at stake and what we can do about it, I found this super inspiring and super shocking. All of it really is super shocking. We know that Biden was tanking in the polls, basically because of his history as a Democrat centrist and, missing out on having an opportunity to really get in there and get his hands dirty. Here's the thing, folks. A lot of the things that progressives stand for are very popular among the working class. They poll super popularly across the country. I mean, your Google box isn't broken. Look this shit up, right? And it really shocked me that, when Dark Brandon started coming out and swinging his claw hammer, it really came as a surprise, and I kind of love every minute of it. And I said this after Roe, that this is the time because Biden fucked up. When Roe happened, the first thing that Biden said was, well, we gotta push for election day. We got midterms coming up. Kamala Harris, same thing. What is it that we're supposed to do? When she was meowing on what was that, 60 Minutes or whatever it was, where she was basically trying to meow her way out of a situation because she didn't have the answers right now. And Democrats just kind of seem to drop the ball after Roe. And I said it then. I said it right before, and I said it a bunch after that. You can look at my Twitter history and take a look there. When Democrats drop the ball, this is the time for progressives to lead the party from the inside. A perfect opportunity. And apparently Biden got the memo because Dark Brandon has been making some waves here. So caught this and again, old news here. Caught this yesterday. AP article, gloves off, Biden embraces tough tone on MAGA Republicans. So let's take a look. In recent days, President Joe Biden has sharpened his attacks against Donald Trump and so-called MAGA Republicans for posing a threat to democracy. He likened the philosophy undergirding the dominant strain of the modern GOP to semi-fascism, which made them lose their absolute fucking minds. And I ate popcorn too, so it was great. Again, this is Washington AP, and Democrats are taking notice, thank God. And thank the fucking maker. And hopefully we see more and more of this. I would love to see more of this. Honestly, I've been seeing more of this from push from our local candidates, and I can really appreciate that. Folks have really been taking their gloves off and just letting them have it. When we saw Hillary Clinton, I want to just jump into this. When we saw Hillary Clinton making her bullshit statements about, we don't need to be talking about social issues, all these things about the LGBTQ, that's not something we need to be talking about this. And it's like, this shit affects everybody. Fuck. I don't have a uterus and I'm not. I mean, it is what 30% of the queer community would consider me a part of the queer community because of a completely different thing. The rest of it considers that sacrilege. So I don't even openly consider myself a part of that community for those reasons, out of respect to those people. But you know what? God damn it. My grandmother was born in Tokyo, Japan. I think that qualifies me for some shit. And when I can see that something like Roe and something like, anti-LGBTQ negislation for children, I'm not a child either, but I know that affects me directly because it's coming after me. I'm fucking, not next, but like fifth. Okay, so we are all fucking in this. We all have the same prerogatives, and we all have to, to come together on this shit to push back. So again, when I see somebody like, Hillary Clinton enabling TERFs and certainly enabling behavioral TERFs, you see that all the time on Facebook and Twitter. You can't have the TE without the RFs from these folks. But I love the fact that I'm seeing, especially from local candidates in Missouri, a strong push against the anti-LGBTQ legislation and obviously against this anti-choice legislation that we've seen. And that's really what's going to make the difference here. But let's just jump right back into it. The gloves off, no holds barred approach from Biden as of late has emboldened Democrats across the country, rallying the party faithful ahead of the November elections, even as his harshest rhetoric makes some vulnerable incumbents visibly uncomfortable. And, Hillary Clinton the other day, she came out, I'm not running. Maybe this is why. Because she made some statements that didn't bode well with folks like me and, I don't know, the vast majority of the country. And certainly every single fucking progressive who has their fucking head on straight, that does touch grass. And then Dark Brandon comes out stomping nuts, and you gotta love it. Clearly folks do. At a Democratic National Convention meeting in Maryland Thursday, Biden said extreme MAGA Republicans just don't threaten our personal and economic rights. They embrace political violence, referencing January 6th attack on the Capitol. They refuse to accept the will of the people. He said they threaten our very democracy. Yeah. Biden's increasingly stark warnings about Trump-fueled elements of the Republican Party. And he didn't even have to mention all this shit by name. But he certainly didn't fucking disregard it. So that's what I can appreciate, out of Dark Brandon here. Biden's increasingly stark warnings about Trump-fueled elements of the Republican Party are making up the core part of his midterm message, combined with repeated reminders to voters about recent Democratic accomplishments and a promise that democracy can still produce results for the American people. But it's the blistering statements from Biden about his predecessor and adherents of the Make America Great Again philosophy that have given many Democrats a bolt of fresh energy as they campaign to keep control of Congress. Because what was the fucking point of fighting all summer and, screaming at the top of our fucking lungs just to drop the ball? The 10 seconds are on the clock, folks. It's time to actually get to work. It's a particularly strong issue for our base. Senator Gary Peters of Michigan, who leads the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, the official campaign arm of the Senate Democrats. Folks want people to show that there's a clear contrast in the election where Democrats and Republicans have been. Ro Khanna, Democrat from California, I know that politics is somewhat like a team sport. The president's the quarterback. Team's not going to fight hard if they don't see the team leader fighting hard. Said Khanna, who backed Bernie Sanders during the 2020 presidential election primaries, but has since been a vocal liberal defender of Biden. Biden's forceful campaign year posture comes as Democrats are feeling optimistic about the midterms when the parties controlling the White House has historically faced losses in Congress. A combination of legislative accomplishments, polarizing Republican candidates, a voter fury stoked by the overturning of Roe v. Wade, have Democrats feeling they could see smaller losses in the House than initially anticipated, while retaining their bare-bones majority in the Senate. Which could be, but now is not the time to get fucking laxed, or all of that work is going to mean diddly dick. Okay? Like I say, now's the time for the real work to get done. If you haven't done fucking shit, I'm not mad at you. But, call somebody. Get on my Discord. Don't get on get on somebody else's fucking Discord. Make yourself available. Do something. Start canvassing for candidates. That's why in the next show it's just going to be me and Ash. Basically just, because JoJo's out there doing the real work while we're going to be sitting in nice air-conditioned offices bitching and screaming at tiny TVs. JoJo's out there doing the real work. So you tell me, folks. The president began road testing his midterm message at a rally in the Washington suburbs late last month as he rallied against the Republican ideology that he said largely resembled semi-fascism. The White House chose Philadelphia's Independence Hall as a backdrop for last week's address that outlined the Trump's extreme ideology posed to the functioning of U.S. democracy. And that, obviously, Fox News absolutely lost their shit. I thought Tucker Carlson was going to cry on TV. And in a pair of Labor Day events in critical midterm battlegrounds, Biden continued to hammer the contrast while becoming even more comfortable in invoking his predecessor, whom he'd avoided referencing by name for much of his presidency. You can't call yourself a democracy when you don't, in fact, count the votes that people legitimately cast and count that as what you are. Biden said Monday in front of a union crowd in Pittsburgh, Trump and the MAGA Republicans made their choice. We can choose to build a better America, or we can continue down this sliding path to oblivion, to where we don't want to go. And we got Monday ads. Biden will headline an event Friday in Ohio, a state where the Senate contrasts between Democrat Tim Ryan and Republican J.D. Vance is becoming increasingly competitive. Those close to Biden say the president's never shied away from a political fight. He's always made the case very aggressively when he thinks the other side's wrong, said Senator Bob Casey, Democrat from Pennsylvania, who's known Biden since the 1980s. I think he's always tried to lift up the country and tried to appeal to our better angels, while at the same time making the case for when he thinks the other side is on the wrong track. Senator Debbie Stabenow, Democrat from Michigan, said issues of democracy, as well as Trump himself, are increasingly becoming topics of concern for voters. More and more people are feeling that, this former president broke the law, and over and over again, the people around him are still doing his bidding to undermine our democracy. Stabenow commended Biden's recent approach, noting that threats are only going to go up, not go down. Still, the sharper edge posture from Biden has been more complicated for Democrats competing in some of the most contested Senate races this cycle, as they seek to attract support from voters who may have backed Trump in 2020. While she stressed that she has concerns about attacks on our democracy, Senator Maggie Hassan, Democrat from New Hampshire, said in an interview with WMUR News 9, "I think President Biden's comments just painted the way with way too broad a brush." Hassan is considered one of the party's most vulnerable incumbents, although she won't know her Republican challenger until the state's September 13th primaries. Boy, that don't give him a whole lot of room to work with there, does it? Ask about those same remarks, Biden remarks. Senator Mark Kelly, Democrat from Arizona, told the AP he hadn't seen him. "I think a president has a right to give his opinion," added Kelly, who's facing Republican Blake Masters in one of the most closely watched Senate contests. "I don't share all of his opinions, but he has a right to give his opinion." Senator Dick Durbin, a Democrat from Illinois, said he didn't like the phrase semi-fascism, calling it awkward. I would just call it fascism myself, but, whatevs. But they are leaning toward fascism, certainly, Durbin said. "When you deny the results of an election, when you're talking about mobs in the street taking over, that to me is not consistent with democratic values." Republicans have accused Biden of divisive rhetoric in his string of speeches, particularly with his Philadelphia address. They say the president's tagged tens of millions of Americans who supported Trump as threats to democracy, although both the president and his aides have been careful to distinguish elected officials from voters themselves. Look, folks, if you still are sucking this guy's shit through a straw, then yeah, you're a fucking threat to democracy. You vote for this guy who wants to end voting. That's a fucking threat to democracy. And as far as the people, the office holders who vote with this guy, who wants to stop voting, there's no other way to call that. Google fascism and look up the definition and tell me you don't see stark, comparisons there. Stop it. We're fucking arguing semantics here. Jesus. GOP officials still believe Biden remains a liability in competitive districts and states, although his approval ratings have brightened somewhat in recent weeks as the White House notched a series of achievements, and as Trump's legal troubles, starting with the FBI search of his Florida estate, have dominated headlines. "I hope Biden keeps going around the country," Senator Rick Scott, a Republican from Florida, said. The Fox News interview Tuesday night. "I hope he goes to every swing state and gives his raving lunatic speech everywhere in the country." Keep in mind, this is the same piece of absolute fucking trash who wanted to drug test welfare recipients, went ahead and did so, and turned out that the vast majority of those welfare recipients were able to piss clean. So you fucking tell me. You want to talk about authoritarian, making grandma and people receiving food stamps take fucking drug tests because they may or may not smoke pot? Fuck you, Rick Scott. Fuck you right in the ear, you fucking guy. This is the same guy who wants to eliminate Social Security because, I don't know, he's a piece of shit. Even though he grew up, with anyway, your Google box isn't broken. Yet in those swing states, more Democrats who had initially shied away from joining Biden are increasingly comfortable in doing so. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers, a Democrat who's in one of the most closely contested gubernatorial races nationwide, joined Biden in Milwaukee on Monday, although Democrat Senate candidate Mandela Barnes stayed away. After avoiding other presidential visits to the state, Pennsylvania Senate candidate John Fetterman, a Democrat, appeared with Biden in Pittsburgh. Peters, the DSCC chairman, said it was up to each Democratic candidate to decide whether to appear alongside Biden, but said he believed the president was an asset. Peters noted that he was the sole Democratic candidate in 2014 to actively campaign with President Barack Obama during a midterm year heavily favorable to Republicans. Everyone ran away. I had to come in and I won, Peters said. So that's my data point. And that's a great point to make, that when it comes to it, a lot of times folks on the left, I mean, there's not a lot of things that folks on the left disagree with, probably. But I mean, again, that's a good 10 to 15% of issues that folks on the left, may find disagreements with. With that regard, there's a lot of things that can bring us together. And one thing that I definitely think should bring us together is that push from progressives, from progressive candidates, from progressive voters making their voices heard to candidates who maybe don't share the same values. But look, your choices are clear. If you're in one of these states where the primaries are over, you can vote blue or you can fucking get who. So, yeah, I think we'll leave it at that.